What's up guys, Just Ash here and welcome to a very spooky episode of Trope Talk. That is right, I am doing a spooky week Halloween themed episode of Trope Talk talking about slasher movies. Now this is a very particular subset of horror movies. They tend to be on the gorier side and kind of put suspense and the thriller elements on the back burner. However, some of the more notable examples of slasher movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween are pointedly not gory, which is nice, I guess, if you're into that sort of thing. Slashers are almost always set around some sort of holiday like Christmas or Halloween, of course, and they always include some sort of serial killer or spree killer who may or may not be supernatural. However, it is worth noting that not every film that concerns a spree killer or a serial killer is a slasher movie. If you want to know if you're watching a slasher movie or not, you need to look out for these tropes. So let's start with tropes that are specific to the killer. He, and it is almost always a male killer, he will be one of the strongest, biggest, most indestructible, implacable beasts that you will ever find in film. 9 times out of 10 they are the strong and silent type, and they usually have revenge or some sort of revenge-based plot as their motivation for performing their killings. The killer may have supernatural abilities explicitly stated, and these will be things like super speed, superhuman strength, the ability to kill people in their dreams, or the ability to perform an ambiguous magical ritual and have your soul put into the children's toys. Other slashers, while not explicitly supernatural, do still seem to have some sort of supernatural abilities. In particular, this includes the off-screen teleport, where they can appear wherever is most opportune for a jump scare at any moment without actually seeming to move at all other than to get to where they need to be. They also have the ability to walk swiftly and silently, no matter their size or whatever sort of environment they're in particular leafy forests. This allows them to sneak around and make sure they are always able to catch their victims off guard. Most slashers have some sort of iconic or unique weapon. I'm talking things like machetes, knife gloves, or even a hook. Or they want to change things up slightly. They'll have a very particular, unique MO, such as recreating urban legends when they are killing people. And finally, the slasher is usually killed by the final girl. And by killed, I mean if this happens with a significant portion of runtime left during the movie, then they are definitely coming back. It is a twist that only shocks the final girl. Everyone else expects it. Or, if it happens at the end of the movie, it's always very heavily hinted that they're not actually dead, and they are fully prepared to return for the inevitable flurry of sequels that the franchise will get. Now, onto the victim. The unlucky cannon fodder will most likely be teenagers or college-aged adults, and they will be partaking in the sins of partying, doing drugs, drinking, having sex, I don't know, morally reprehensible stuff. You know, just general having fun like teenagers do. The group will usually consist of young men and women, and these guys can be broken down further into distinct character archetypes that are most likely going to be there. You will have your final girl, you will have the douchebag, you will have the couple, which is usually some jock stereotype and a buxom blonde. And finally, because no horror writer is in any way good, there's most likely going to be some sort of token minority there so that they can say they at least tried at representation, even though we all know it's utter BS. Obviously though, you may find that other character archetypes have been added into the mix, especially when there is a larger group of victims available for the killer. These will be the guys that are on the receiving end of the killer's cruel and unusual deaths. Using the group of archetypes that I mentioned earlier, you would be looking at, unfortunately, again, because horror writers are awful people, the minority will be killed off first. This is just a sad fact. No one ever wants to break out of their comfort zone and try writing an actual character. Next up, you have the couple that will be killed when they inevitably sneak off in the middle of all of the murders to go and have sex. You will then have the douchebag, who, luckily, actually gets quite a satisfying death because he's been a total arsehole the entire way up until he dies. And if it's not some sort of karmic retribution for something that he has directly done beforehand in the film, it's always an over-the-top, extra violent, extra satisfying death that usually involves impalement concealment. Which leaves us with the final girl. She is the one who has been chosen to be the most morally pure of the group. She is 9 times out of 10 a brunette. She is 9 times out of 10 probably a virgin, but there's nothing wrong with being a virgin, so that's all right. Anyway, no matter what sort of stupid decision the final girl makes, she has got a full set of plot armor on her, protecting her and making sure she gets out with her final encounter with the killer totally okay. So that's good, I guess. At least someone survives. So, if you guys are confident enough to think you can spot these tropes in slasher movies, I think it's time for some recommendations for you to go and practice. If you want to see these tropes played totally straight, then I definitely recommend you watch Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, or Friday the 13th. If you want something that is still played straight but is a little bit different, go and watch Urban Legend. That's got a nice unique MO for a killer there. Alternatively, if you're after something a bit more subversive, go and watch Scream. That's really good. That plays a lot with the tropes, bends them over backwards. Oh god, that is not the right phrase. And finally, if you want to see these tropes completely messed with, completely turned on their heads, go and watch Cabin in the Woods. It is a great film. It was just marketed poorly. And that is it. I hope you found this super spooky episode of Trope Talk at least a little bit informative. If you have, please give it a like. Remember to leave your favourite tropes in the comments below, and you can pour yourself a nice cup of voodoo juice and join me tomorrow for the final spooky season video.